Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the Week 8 matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. And you can catch this game on October 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and that'll be aired on your local CBS affiliates. So these two AFC North division rivals will be going at it. And Baltimore is 5-2 entering this game, and Cincinnati is 3-1. And these two teams faced each other back in Week 1 in Baltimore, and the Bengals won that game by a touchdown. Of course, the Ravens then went on to win the next 3 games in a row as they hosted the Steelers, then they went to Cleveland, and then they hosted the Panthers, and they beat all those teams. But then they went to Indianapolis, and they lost to the Colts by a touchdown. And then they went to Tampa and they beat up on the Buccaneers. And then last week they hosted the Falcons and they beat up on them. And that's where they get their record of 5-2. As the Ravens have lost, their only 2 losses were both by a touchdown. So 1 possession losses, they could easily be 7-0. Then we look at the Bengals. They started off 3-0 as they were one of the 2 remaining undefeated teams after the month of September as they had that bye week. They started off with that win in Baltimore, like we said, and then they hosted the Falcons and the Titans, and they took care of business in both of those games. Then they had their bye week, and then they entered the month of October where they have yet to win a game. First, they went to New England. They got beat up by the Patriots. And then they hosted the Panthers, and they played this year's first and only tie game thus far. And then they went to Indianapolis last week, and they got shut out by the Colts. So it's been a rough go of things for the Bengals lately. And now they've got to face the Ravens here in this division matchup, and it's going to be a tough game. They already beat the Ravens in Baltimore, but that just makes it all the tougher to then beat them again for a second time, as that is a very tough thing to do. But let's look inside the numbers. We look inside the passing offense. The Ravens are 9th in passing yards per game. The Bengals are 16th. We look at passing defense. The Ravens are 24th, and the Bengals are 27th. So the edge in the passing game goes to the Ravens, Joe Flacco. When we look at the running offense of these two teams, the Ravens are 7th in the NFL in rushing yards per game, and the Bengals are 16th. When we look at running defense, the Ravens are 7th, and the Bengals are 30th. So the Ravens have not been missing Ray Rice, and the Bengals can't stop anybody. So the Ravens have been doing it by committee. Forsett, Pierce have been doing a really good job. Taliaferro, they've been spreading the ball around in the backfield and picking up those yards, and they've been shutting down the run of other teams, unlike the Bengals, who've been allowing teams to just run all over them. And then we look at the points for and against. The Ravens are 6th in points for and points scored. The Bengals are 19th. And we look at points against. The Ravens are number 1 in the NFL when it comes to points allowed. The Bengals are 18th. So again, the advantage Ravens. So the advantage in all the statistics is all on the favor of the Ravens. So I mean, I'll tell you, it's really tough to not pick the Ravens in this game. Said all of the stats are all in their favor. They also, the fact that they lost to the Bengals in Baltimore makes me more inclined to think that they would actually even up the series and win in Cincinnati, being that that's usually how these things go when it comes to in-division rivalries. If a team beats a team in the other team's home, usually the other team that lost comes back and beats the team that won the first matchup in their home to even things out, if you follow all that. But still, and even looking at the way the Ravens, they've been on fire. I mean, they've won 5 out of their last 6 games after losing that game in Week 1. They've only lost that 1 game to the Colts, and that's actually who the Bengals lost to last week, was the Colts. And they haven't won a game yet in October, but I think that the Bengals can do it. I think that this is the week, and I think that they'll sweep the Ravens here in the season series. It might be hard to believe, but I think they could do it, and I think they finally get back on track. I think by getting shut out in Indianapolis against the Colts, that should light a fire under the Bengals. They're at home for the next 3 weeks. If they can get 3 victories in a row, start things rolling, then they have 3 road games coming up after that, and they're against 3 teams they can win. The Bengals could win their next 6, maybe 7 games in a row if you look at their schedule. Of course, it all starts right here with this game against Baltimore, and this will be a huge boost for the Bengals if they can win this one against such a tough Baltimore team. They know that they can beat them. They've beat them already. They beat them in Baltimore. And if they can execute the way they did before, then they can win this game. Of course, the difference in that game was the A.J. Green, when he came up with that big touchdown late in the game, and that kind of sealed the victory for the Bengals. They're going to have to do it this time without A.J. So that's, something that's been hurting them. But even still, I think they could do it. I think that their defense is way underrated, and I think their defense is also, the statistics don't really show what they really are. I think they get back on track, get things going. I really find it hard to believe that the Bengals are going to go through the whole month of October without getting at least 1 victory. Like I said, and sometimes, a team, when it struggles, build character, losses can toughen up a team. They needed those losses to get them to this point where they can now rally and get this win, and this will be the start of something to get them back going towards their push for the playoffs. That's what I think is going to happen. I have not forgotten who Cincinnati is. I think that's the thing, is it's really easy to forget who the Bengals are, the way they've been playing so far in this month. But once they show up here, get this win, then people will start taking notice again and being like, all right, Cincinnati, they're competitive. It's nothing, it's not shameful to lose to the Colts, even though they got shut out. The Colts are probably the best team in football, really, if you actually look at the numbers and the way they're playing, especially after that 0-2 start. They've been just dominant. They've been on fire. So you can't really discredit the Bengals because of that. And usually I think, a big loss like that can lead a team to then come back and get a big win. Kind of like how the Patriots did to the Bengals when they lost to the Chiefs, and then they came back and they beat the Bengals the next week. Of course, the Bengals then the next week came back and played that tie, and then they lost that game to the Colts. But I think that's going to be a wake-up call to them, and I think they can win this one. If they don't win this one, which all signs point towards Baltimore should win this game. I mean, that's what it says on paper. I could think of a bunch of reasons to pick the Ravens in this game, and very few to pick the Bengals. I'm kind of going out on a limb here, but I'm just going with my instincts, because that's the thing I find, is that if you go just strictly with what the paper and the stats say, and if you just strictly go on what you think is going to be the outcome, then sometimes that's where you end up wrong. You got to trust your instincts, and my instincts say Cincinnati. Of course, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should have went with my head on this one, but I'm going with my heart. Not to say that I have my heart's in either place or not in one place over the other. It's just my instincts. So I'm taking Cincinnati. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Very interested to read your thoughts and opinions. And if you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button so that I know that you liked it. Otherwise, how would we know? And if you enjoy this content, then go ahead and subscribe, because we bring you this content each and every week. We bring you upon further reviews for each and every single game, as well as recaps for all the games. We're also covering baseball and college football as well. And we do our weekly show, The Wedge, where we do our quick picks, our fantasy fortune, our weekly rewind, and we do the upon further review for the Thursday night game on that show as well. So make sure to keep an eye out for all of those. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated.